Hey, what's going on, investors? Juan Pablo here from 100% Finance. It's so good to see you guys again. Today we're going to be talking about multi-units versus multi-family. We're going to be talking about the differences between the two. We're also going to be talking about the pros and cons of the two and which one that I like best. Hey, if you're new to the channel, my name is Juan Pablo. So I'm a full-time real estate investor. So I invest in both multi-unit properties and multi-family properties. So I'm well versed in both. And I have a few single families in my portfolio as well. But pretty much all the properties in my portfolio are rental properties in which I buy them, I hold on to them for life, so that way I can obtain cash flow. Cash flow is income that you receive from your properties minus your operating expenses, your debt service, reserves, and so forth. In other words, it's profit in your pocket. Now, starting out, just give you some a little bit of history about myself, story. You know, I just pretty much bought a property that I can qualify for in regard to a mortgage, right? So starting out, I was able to get access to FHA, in which the mortgage was allowed me to get 3.5% down, allowed me to put down a 3.5% down payment, which is not bad at all. And I was able to get a duplex for that property. It's like a trip down memory lane. It's so long ago. It's just crazy, you know? So first deal, got a 2-unit because I qualified for FHA. Second deal was a single family. Now this property I counted about wrong. It was a distressed single family property, which I still own today. But I should have used hard money or RELOC, a real estate line of credit, to acquire that distressed property. But instead I used a refinance for my car and personal credit cards, in which I don't recommend personal credit cards because it messes up your debt to income ratio and your debt to credit ratio, which helps you get qualified for mortgages. So I got a 2-unit using FHA, a single family I bought the wrong way using refinance for my car and personal credit cards, and then I bought a 4-unit in which I bought the right way. I obtained a mortgage, an investment mortgage, in which I had to put down 20%, you know, because the mortgage covered 80% of the purchase price, and then with that 4-unit, I had to use my savings. I didn't know back then about using creative financing that we teach here on this channel about business credit, seller financing, and things of that nature. So my first 3 deals were acquired simply because I just used the financing that A, I had access to, and B, mortgages in which I qualify for. So just to piggyback off a walk down memory lane, I lived in the New York, New Jersey area. So I lived in New Jersey, but I commute to New York to work. And I remember as I'm walking down the street to go to my bus stop, I will always see these huge apartment buildings. And I always used to say to myself, you know what, one of these days, I'm gonna own an apartment building just like this. It was like a constant reminder. Every single time I walked to the bus stop, I would look at these buildings and claiming that they were mine, right? So it really sparked that fire within me. And as you can tell, I was really interested in it. I had a huge desire for it. I definitely want to get into multifamily. However, starting out, I couldn't. Why is that? Because I couldn't qualify for those type of commercial mortgages for multi-units, for multifamily, excuse me. But I was able to get qualified for multi-unit properties, right? So my advice is you have to go with the approach in which you qualify for, right? Now, if you have the experience of investing in properties in that market, then yes, you may be able to get started with multifamily. But in my case, starting out, I didn't have much experience in investing in real estate, so most commercial lenders wouldn't lend to me for a multifamily property. However, conventional mortgages, investment type of mortgages as well, they were capable of lending me money to buy small multi-unit properties. So a multi-unit property, just in case you're curious what I mean between multi-unit and multifamily, now we're getting to some of the differences. A multi-unit is a property in which you have 2 or more units, okay? Typically in the residential mortgage world, it's 2 to 4. Like most people are unaware of this, a residential mortgage covers anything from a 1-unit, which is a single family home, to 4 units. Okay, so I use that to my advantage. As I mentioned, I acquired a duplex, then I acquired a single family home. I used credit cards and so forth, but I ended up refinancing into a conventional mortgage. And the third property, the 4-plex, I ended up using a conventional mortgage as well, an investment mortgage. Okay, then after I did those 3 deals, that's 7 units in total, and I kept conversing back and forth with my mortgage lenders and commercial mortgage lenders. At that point, I had the credibility and the experience to dive into multifamily. So what's multifamily? Multifamily is a property in which you have 5 units or up. 5 units or more, okay? That's multifamily. Now, one of the differences between the two, outside of the units, which makes a, the qualification for the number of units, the other difference between the two is the financing aspect. With multi-unit properties, when you use residential mortgages, conventional mortgages, and so forth, you typically have to put 20% down payment for investment properties, period. Do they allow seller financing? They do not. Most of their underwriting, their decision making, and on getting you qualified for the mortgage is on you, the borrower. I'll say around 80%. The latter 20% of their underwriting is actually on the property itself, the cash flow and so forth, the location and all that good stuff. But for multifamily, commercial mortgage lenders do their underwriting a tad bit differently. They require a 20% down payment. However, they're okay with the seller, who's selling you the property, by the way, providing a second mortgage, in which you have to bring 10% down payment to the table. So that's great. So you can get 80% from the mortgage, 10% from the seller. Perfect, right? That's 90% of the financing is covered right there. Also with commercial mortgages, they don't care too much about YOU, meaning your strength as a borrower, meaning let me see all your bank statements, let me see all your tax returns. Yes, they want some documentation. Yes, they may take a look at your credit, but it's not a deep dive into all your financials, just like it is with conventional mortgages. It's quite different for commercial mortgages. They care about the property more than you. Don't get me wrong, they still want to take a look at your credit, they still want to make sure you have some financials, but they don't make that the major decision behind getting you qualified for a mortgage. So that's pretty much the main differences between multi-unit and multifamily, the number of units as well as the lending requirements. Now, as I shared, you might be thinking, hey, well, I want to go deep dive into a big deal, because I heard some other influencer online says you can get started. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. You should only get started with 16 units. There's no point in getting started on real estate with 16 units. Well, in my case, I couldn't just dive into 16 units because I didn't have any experience. Even if I did have the capital to afford a 16 unit, if I had no experience whatsoever in investing in real estate for one, and investing in that market for two, why would a commercial lender provide me with that loan? To them, I'm being risky. They're like, hold on. If this person's doing this big deal for the first time with no experienced partners or what have you, the likelihood of this person investing out of state, because I was an out of state investor, the likelihood of this person investing out of state with little experience, I don't know, that's just too much of a risk for me to give this person a mortgage. So it's better just to start small, like with the multi-units, and that's what I did. All right, so let's get into the pros and cons a tad bit. The pro of multi-units is it's easier to get qualified for. As long as you prove some sort of global income, meaning do you have income from multiple sources, such as W-2, your day job, do you have 401k, money there, do you happen to have access to stocks or bonds, savings, things of that nature, then you more than likely get qualified for a multi-unit property. Right, so if you're just getting started, brand new, never did a deal, a buy and hold property, I'm not talking about you flip the property or you wholesale the property. Most of the lenders who's lending you money to buy a property for buy and hold purposes, they want to make sure that on your personal financial statement that you own properties, or if you have owned them, they want to see the time frame that you own them. Okay, now they see maybe 3-6 months, they understand that's a flip, they might not use that as their qualification process, that okay, you did a flip, you was in a property in January, you were out by March. They're more so focused on, do you have experience in being a buy and hold investor? Again, all this stuff's on your personal financial statement, and we have those resources on our website, on our share hub. All right, so that's the big pro for the multi-units, the ease of getting qualified. Another pro of multi-units is that it's still multiple units, right? It's not a single family. So a single family, don't get me wrong, get started however, whenever you can, right? If a single family is out there, is available, and it's cash flowing, by all means, go for it. But with multi-units, you minimize your risk by having multiple doors. And what's the benefit of that? Well, if you have a single family and you have one vacancy, what's your occupancy rate? 0. So how much rent are you getting? zero as well. But if you have a 4 unit and you have 1 vacancy, what is your occupancy rate? 75%. How much income are you collecting? Potentially 75%, right? So it's good. It minimizes that risk, right? The other pro of multi-unit investing as well is you can still utilize the other things I like to do to improve the value, increase the rent, decrease the expenses to make the property more valuable. But the cons is that you're not able to use seller financing. The con is you're capped between doing a deal, if you're interested in multi-unit, between 2 and 4 units. So that's the only downside. And also the cap is most lenders have a minimum loan amount of $75,000. Meaning even if you found a sweet deal, let's say it's a 3 unit and you're able to purchase it for $66,000, and it's a great deal for one, as I mentioned, it's cash flowing, you're buying at a great discount. You know, the amount of money per door is super cheap. However, most mortgage lenders won't lend money for that property. Why? Because it's not worth their time. They will get chump change. And I'm saying this from experience. Actually, that 4 unit I was telling you about, I actually bought that 4 unit for $66,000, and my mortgage lender, it took us maybe 4 to 5 months to close. He only made a commission of $700. Now, who wants to be working? Who knows how many hours he was working on this deal with me? Maybe 10 hours a week. Who wants to work 10 hours a week for the next 4 to 5 months to get a total commission of $700 once you close? It's not worth their time, right? So that's the downside. So you have to make sure you buy a 4 unit that's has a purchase price or a loan value over $75,000. All right, now let's get into the pros and cons of multifamily. Well, the pro is it's sexy, right? It's easier to gain partners as well. If you're getting a 10 unit, it might be easier for you to raise capital from other investors who are interested in doing a bigger deal than doing a 3 unit, multi-unit property. So it's easier to raise private money, in other words, because it's just sexier. Also, you're able to get more leverage, right, with multifamily. Meaning if you have a 10 unit, you do rent increases on all 10 units, you decrease your expenses, you're making the property work more because the majority of the value is coming from the performance of that asset. How well you're making it perform by improving the revenue, decreasing the expenses. Another pro of multifamily, as I shared earlier, seller financing is okay. As long as you're able to negotiate and persuade the seller to provide a second mortgage, and by all means, there's less capital you have to bring to the closing table. So that's great, right? Now, the downsides to multifamily, as I share with you, is just the qualifications. Most commercial lenders want to make sure you have experience in investing, for one, and for two, experience in investing in that market. That's pretty much the main con there. And the other con is too that sometimes the property values can be very high. The same thing goes for single family, multi-units, don't get me wrong, but it could be a tad bit higher as well. Now my favorite, after say starting out, if I were in your shoes, let's say you're just getting started, my favorite will be whichever one I qualify for, period. This is a personal belief of mine, beggars can't be choosers. So if I'm only provided with a certain hand, that was dealt to me, I'm gonna try to play that hand the best that I can. Whatever finance I get access to, whether I can get a loan from here, get a mortgage from there, or if I'm capped to doing a deal, maximum of 4 units, $75,000 purchase price, then so be it, right? I'm not going to just sit there and say, well, I'm just going to continue to wait and maybe some potential partner will fall out the sky who has experience and will invest with me, even though I'm bringing no knowledge or no cash or no credit to the table. Like, get real. I'm not trying to be harsh by that, but you have to understand what the circumstances, right? So my route that I took, the route that I took early on was, hey, whatever finance I could qualify for, that's what I'm gonna go for. But I always had multifamily in mind, period. And I continued to do the smaller deals, the 2 unit, the single family, the 4 unit, until I was qualified to move forward with multifamily. And that's just my recommendation to you. You can take that same route as well. Okay, and speaking of multifamily, multi-units, if you're interested in learning how to do this yourself or have this done for you, we can help you out 100% finance. Just check the links below to learn more. All right, guys, as always, this is to your success. Continue to earn passively, live passionately, and share this video. All right, peace.